to that a question that was asked by one of my audience. Should I change my child because the child failed in a particular class? Is it right to change a child because the child fails in a particular class? Okay, so to me, that question, I will not say a yes or no to that question. I want us to look at what are the variables surrounding the child's failing. Some children fail as a result of a lot of variables. Now, let's look at some of these variables. Is it because the child have incompetent teachers? Teachers that don't know how to teach, or teachers that are not handling the child's needs well? Now, if that was the case, that means that the hands that are handling this child are not competent. It is not easy to teach, okay? And it's not everybody that did education that know how to handle children and their learning styles. So if you look at the school as one that don't cater for the need of this child to the extent you think they should, then you should think of changing the child. But if the school is doing their best, the teachers are good, and they are giving the child the best, then look beyond that variable and look at other variables to see why did this child fail. Another variable you have to look at is does the child have learning disabilities? We have different individuals. There are some that are gifted. There are some that are very intelligent. There are some that learn in a medium way, and there are some that are very slow learner. Now evaluate your child. Is this child a slow learner? If the child is a slow learner, that means you need work to do as a caregiver or as a parent. So if there is extra work to be done, know that the school did not fail. It's just that the child was not following at the pace at which other children were learning. So that means that as a caregiver, you need to give this child extra hand. Extra hand, either you do it yourself or you have to pay for other tutors to take the child extra classes to follow along as they are teaching them in school. Some children need repetition to learn. Now, the school may not have the time. There are curriculum that have been structured out, and for every week, there are things that the school needs to cover to meet the curriculum coverage. If the child cannot follow at that pace, that means the child is a slow learner, and as a caregiver, you need to give the child extra hand at home. You can use classes that are pre-recorded, like we have on Class Online School. We run the Nigerian curriculum from JS1 to SS3. If there are topics you see there that they are teaching them in school, you can download this video and allow this child to watch over and over again. Then if you can have private tutors that can teach them and do it repetitively for them, it will be fine. They will teach them until they understand. Then if you can do it yourself, you can teach them and repeat it with them. That means that it is not the school problem. In that case, I will say that allow the child to repeat because the child did not follow along well as they were teaching the previous term. You get it? So that's another area you want to look at. Then you look at emotional instability. Is this child emotionally stable? What role have the school played? Are they bullying the child in school? Are there some teacher the child hates in school? Are they maltreating the teacher? Are they maltreating the child? Now, when you look at those variables, why the child is not emotionally stable, then if the school has a hand, or there is a lot of peer pressure on the child, making the child not to concentrate, then if that's the case, there is need for you to remove the child from that school. If a child is bullied, or a child is maltreated, or the teachers do not understand the individual difference about this child, and they don't seem to cope with his individuality, then you can go to school and talk with them. If they don't want to listen, you can change the child. So changing the child depends on why, depends on the problem on ground, and depends on the variable you want to explore. You get? So that's one area I want to talk about again. Then we'll look at family problem. Some families are going through divorce. Some come from a broken home. What is the family background? if the child is coming from a family background that is giving the child a whole lot of trouble, the child is not going to learn well. So you as a caregiver or as a parent, look at where the child is coming from. Please make the home conducive for the child so that the child will come to school and be a stable human being when the child learns. Because if the home is defective, the parents are fighting themselves, the child is not stable, the child is not emotionally or psychologically okay, the child will come to school with that baggage on his or her heart, and will have trouble and problem learning. That will give the child learning disability. Another variable you want to look at is the health of the child. Sometimes during exams, some children are sick. Some have exam fever. Some are not healthy during that time. So they will not perform at its optimal. Look at yourself when you were sick. Do you perform at your optimal? They won't be able to revise their book. They won't be able to read. Their health will be an issue for them. So you don't want to uh, assess the child based on the time that the child is sick. So if the child is sick and there is an exam for the child will not perform well. So you can look at that variable. If the child was sick at that time, go to the school and tell them to do a makeup test for the child and see whether the child will do better. Or leave the child in the present class that is supposed to be promoted on probation. So please, all these variables, try to look at them. And then I want to talk about lack of conducive environment. If you go to some school and see where some of these children are learning, the environment is not conducive. During rainy season, the roofs are leaking. During dry season, the area is hot. Who learns in that kind of environment? So if you as a caregiver assess the environment as a poor environment where the child can learn, then you can take the child away from the school. So, to that question, is it right for us to take away our children because they fail in a particular school? There is no yes and no answer to that. It all depends on the variable you've analyzed. Are there things that surround the school that make the child to fail? Or is it the child making that the child fail? If it is the school variable that makes the child to fail, take the child away from that school. If it is the personal variable of the child because of learning disability, family problem, health issue, and the rest of them, you can allow the child to remain. Or you can go and talk with the school authority and tell them to give the child a trial, a probation on the present class that the child is. So that's my take on this question that one of my audience asked. So I don't have a yes or no answer. Please go and assess all those variables. Okay, analyze them, assess them, see where your child falls in, and see the decision you want to make. This is Class Online School. We're on the Nigerian curriculum from JSS 1 to JSS 3. We'll talk about issue arising in counseling section, or we'll talk about issue affecting our students and things that can help us to build our tutor you as individuals. We have sex education sections. Sometimes we have business tips. Thank you for joining us. Please like, share the video if you think there are other people that can benefit from it. Subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed. That will make the channel to grow. It's my pleasure being here, and I will always want to come up as often as I can. Do you have any question based on what I've just discussed? Based on other things you've watched on our video? Do you have suggestions for us on areas to grow? Please give below the comment box. We'll always respond to your questions, and we'll always follow your feedback as much as we can. Thank you for joining us. I'll see you in our next.